I would assume that's is that the ambulance, or is that something different?
That's the EMS. Did you want to pay for any of the hospital? I think what they're gonna ask you is the hospital agreement, the 300 we had this year.
Yeah.
Do you want to leave any of that in CEDA or keep it on their tax rate? They're gonna ask you that.
You know what, they're the ones that voted to do it. I'm just
It's your
blabbing.
budget though. That's what they're gonna ask you. Are you gonna,
I'm afraid that if we leave it and seed it, that we don't know what seeded funds are gonna be.
I was hoping we were done with EMS funding and seated. I guess I was hoping that we were done with that they had, rightfully so, a year or so ago, put in an appropriation. So
This goes
it's
back
in our
5, 6, 7 years ago, when Consul Bill Overdeer name came to Commissioner and asked if out of the seeded fund we could pay the EMS bill with the hospital. At that time, we had a pretty good account in almost 1.8, almost $2 million in that seeded fund. And so, and we also found out that you could spend seeded money for that economic development. You say, well, if you have a good seeded plan, good people, that might entice people, businesses to come. Okay, so we got it in under that. But then it come back in 2 or 3 years later, the seed dwindled and county fund went up. So they took it back. Now it's been wishy-washy back and forth, and
I think that's what they're gonna talk to you about.
I don't know.
The bill, these bills, the 150 this year, 150 and 150.
Yep.
Do they want to leave that all in your it's in your budget
That's where
for
it's at.
300, or do they want to support it? That's what they're gonna ask you.
Okay. Okay.
And by the way, we have our new July to December bill.
Mm-hmm.
Can I pay that? Since I'm looking at it right now.
Well, there's a line item for that.
I know, but remember we had that discussion when I paid it in January. If
Oh,
it was
yep.
prepayment.
Because
I'm okay
that's,
though,
cause
right?
that's the way the contract read. Yeah,
Okay.
Yep, that's the way the contract read. Yeah, we can't, yeah.
Do I have that
It should have been caught in the contract, and it wasn't.
So we're good.
Yep, we can't help it. That's prepayment, but that's the way the contract reads, so I've been told that you have to live with that, so. All right, so EMS funding, they're gonna talk to us about whether or not we're leaving the 300,000. Actually, I think it was 310 we put in next year, right?
I'm sure you did. That's
Put
the-
310.
Mhm.
All right, all right. County group insurance coverage cost, that's just because they wanted to know.
How much they were gonna have to come up with
All right.
on a rainy day.
Humane Society, we haven't put anything. We hadn't really talked about it, so I know I have feelings, but we haven't done anything with it.
Okay.
So, CEDAP Plan 2013. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes. Council on Aging.
Are you gonna leave them at, was it 10, 25? They just wanted to know. And that's CEDA
Okay.
plan too. So
That's CEDAP Plan 2, and we'll
that
talk
was
about
the
that.
first step.
Otis Bowen Center, from what I can find out, that's state mandated.
We have
There is
to
a
do
squat
that.
we can do about that.
And you can tell them
In
that.
Woods, Lands, and Lakes funding, are they really, were they bothered that it went up to $400 and some?
Yes, they requested me.
I think the question is not so much that, what does Woodlands and Lakes do?
for
That Mr.
Whitley County.
Crumback there is representing us, and he gave us a list. And I would ask, if you have that list, make a copy of it and present. This is what Woodlands and Lakes has done for Whitley County in the past, because they don't even know
Yeah.
what it is.
That's
Okay,
pretty much what
okay.
he said. We don't know what they do for us. It was $135, now they want $400. What
Yeah.
have they done to justify?
Okay.
Well, we have better representation.
That's right, we actually have representation
That was
now.
my notes from the meeting.
All right, well, thank you then. That'll make us a little prepared
So
for.
if we have that list of thing that Stanley gave us that he found out, why we need to make a copy of that and pass it
Present to
out.
him?
Yep.
Okay, inundate them with paper that day, if that's what they so would like to have, so. All right.
Might make a comment relative to that as well. In the Woodland and Lakes meeting that just took place at the end of June, we were discussing this request that was sent to the commissioners of each of the 6 counties, and each of us talked about what we had done with our respective commissioners, and I explained to them that I felt like that the 3 of you and I had a very good relationship, and that I had not only tried to provide you information on what was being done with, what Woodland and Lakes was trying to do for the counties, but also specific to Whitley County. And then one of them spoke up and said to me that I should assure you that even in this time of funding difficulty for Woodland and Lakes will not disappear. And the reason why it won't disappear is because its most effective program has been the agricultural easements. And the fact that it helps people create those agricultural easements and then puts those into existence means that it becomes a representative of that easement in perpetuity, so to speak, and will go ahead and continue to do that representation. So there's no attitude within that council of its disappearance, but what has been done because of the loss of the federal funding is to right now say that the council itself is going to concentrate on the most effective program that they offered, which is the easements, and continue with those and do what needs to be done to take care of those and help people get easements, get the agricultural easements. Then when funding problems get solved, if there's a chance to go back to the forestry things and the education things that you see in that list, then those will be picked back up again and moved along. So Woodland and Lakes has no intention of disappearing. It can't because of those easements, and fully intends to try to get back to other things, but right now is making what that group and I as a part of it, but I'm the new kid on the block, thinks is the most effective decision, which is to continue with the best program they had for now, really work with it and then add things back as time passes. So that's what's going on, and they were a little surprised that I was able to hand you a list. Well, where'd you get that list? I said, well, the lady that used to work for you, but you couldn't pay her anymore, had a database, and I said I opened up the database and went into it and brought out the list. And so now I came home with not only the database, but the book about it, and they'd like for me to help them get it going again.
Yeah.
So,
Get it going again.
Yeah.
See who's got self-interest in it?
Yeah.
I know. Well, thank you. We pay, you guys know the numbers probably better than me, 11, 12, 13,000 to 3A, and about that to Northeast Regional Partnership. We're gonna have to explain $400, okay? Yeah, all right. Mr. Rethlake.
The only thing I have, and I don't know if you're going to talk about Samaritan Party. Any discussion you've had with?
I've met with
Go ahead.
Tri-Lakes Property Owners Association, and they're still trying to come up with some kind of an idea what to do with the park. They asked me about the fish hatchery building, whether the county would be favorable in bringing the bathroom area up to code, and I told them that I didn't think that we had any money available to do anything like that. It wouldn't just be the bathroom, because if they wanted to use it for like flea markets or people to be able to sell things in there, and by the time we get through bringing it up to ADA, it just wouldn't be worth it. So we still, there's no real consensus on what we should do with either the Camp Samaritan or the fish hatchery.
Well, the reason I asked, I've had a couple council members suggest maybe we look at, because of the funds that's going to be needed to clean it up out there, and wanted to know, I guess one of them got a complaint or two from a neighbor saying, well, the county has this, you gonna do anything, or you're just gonna let it grow up in weeds? Well, right now, we've done the latter. So, they kinda encouraged me to check with the commissioners, see if you'd be interested in pursuing to give that back to the DNR. I told them I didn't know. Well, everything we went through to get it.
At this point, I think that's our only option, to be honest about it.
We have no option other than that. And it's the neatest place. But I just don't.
Have you been out there? It's not neat.
No, I
know what you mean.
yeah, you know,
It's-
it's a crying shame.
It is.
An absolute crying shame that it has to be like that, but quite frankly, I don't know that our taxpayers want us to spend money on it.
No, we don't have that money to spend. We got
Well,
money.
we don't have it to spend, so.
And
George,
it's
is the
staying like
Tri-Lakes a
specified.
non-for-profit?
No, they're
No, they're
social
not.
clubs is all that is right now.
Yeah.
I
They're
was
trying
gonna
to
say
work with
because it said
September
if
on
they-
that, but
It specifically states, and we have that, contract, that if the county does not want it, we cannot pass it on, we cannot sell it, we have to notify the state DNR, we don't want it, and they take it back.
Yeah, Stanley, go ahead and make your comment, and I'll make my.
Well, with respect to Camp Samaritan, back when that was brought up another time, and we kind of spoke together here at the commissioners meeting, then I went out on a Sunday afternoon perhaps the weekend following that discussion, took a number of pictures, and as I had said I would do, and I've voiced some things around a little bit, but I'm not finding anybody that is interested in helping pick up on it too. I thought I had an idea going that was going to get kind of hot, because some of these lakes have got not-for-profit organizations that are conservation organizations relative to the lakes and to the water chain that feeds the lake and so on. And I thought, well, there might be some resource there if a person could get that going and do something through Woodland and Lakes. But Woodland and Lakes simply, and even before I got there, has recognized that they haven't got the capacity. If they go ahead and keep their obligations to the land easements, the agricultural easements, and do what they're supposed to do that way, they haven't got the ability right now to move outside of it. And so barring being able to get some of the lake conservation groups to say they'd be willing to take that on, and I don't know why they would, to be honest about it. Unfortunately, then you don't have recourse there either. But I did go out and look at it, and I have to agree with what I've heard said. You know, you can look at that and see it in its glory. And it was an amazing place, and it makes you sad to see what has happened to it.
I think sad is absolutely the word. It's just like 1,000 foot of lake frontage on Round Lake. How much more could a person ask for? But you can't do anything with it. And I agree with Commissioner Russell. Our hands are tied, and I think we should go back to DNR and just tell them that we're.
Commissioner Ruthley asked me to check with Acres Trust also, and
Oh, okay.
they would be interested, but they want you to turn it over to them, and we can't do that.
We don't have that right.
Yeah, we can't do
Yeah.
that, so,
Yeah.
you know, that was one, I forgot to say something to you about that, but,
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thanks
so
for
there's
doing
really
that.
kind of it's a little bit of a dead end there.
Could we get a consensus or a motion that we start the procedure to?
I make a motion that the chairman send a letter on behalf of the commissioners
Okay.
to the DNR requesting that we do, Well, just stating at this time, we do not have the finances or the workers to keep this camp, and we'd like to turn it back to the state DNR.
Now, are we talking also the fish hatchery?
Well, that's,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, no, we're gonna take them one at a time here. Let's take them one at a
This
time.
has to do with
But
Camp Samaritan.
Camp Samaritan, so we have a motion that I write a letter to the DNR, I got the guy's name and everything out here, just because he sent me a letter on something else, so I got it. You want a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor, raise your right hand, opposed the same.
I
Now-
have that deed up in my office too, if you wanna.
Okay,
just help me
okay.
refer to it.
Okay, now, I guess I'd like to discuss the park and the land on Fish Hatchery Road. And I will just come right out and say, I'd like to see us give it to Thorn Creek Township and be out in the park
And
business.
now, the park is separate from the fish hatchery deal.
All right, well then, okay, then I'll just stay with the park, I'll stay right with the park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Because the fish hatchery
Is more
come with
DNR?
Camp Samaritan.
Yeah, and we'd have to turn that back
So,
to
so,
DNR
so
also.
how did we end up with a park then, not that brick building, but the park?
Before I was a commissioner, that day, I think it was Mr. Auger, Mr. Pettigrew, Mr. Redmond, and for some reason, that's the only park the county has.
It is, yeah.
The only one. And, they decided that, I don't know whether it was Mr. Heckman who had come before, that they would like to develop a park, and the commissioners at that time took it on behalf of Whitley County, and it's been there ever since.
Okay, I guess I would like,
That was not part of
This
the,
last purchase.
yeah, the fish hatchery.
sorry, okay, I'm
So
with
that-
you.
I don't think we're limited as far as turning that over to the township. That on the park, but we can't do that to fish hatchery
I see.
or,
Well, the fish hatchery building isn't not going to be, I don't think, a big expense to us. Now, whether you want to turn it back, I think you ought to contact Gene Heckman and see maybe if he, on behalf of a political body, would want to accept. Maybe we ought to contact him first, see if he wants to accept them both as a political party.
You're talking the park and the fish hatchery building.
And I'm talking about maybe he'd be interested in Camp Samaritan. I don't think he would be, but if he's in it.
he was asked that
I
at the.
yeah, I think he's made comments that he
Yeah.
wouldn't be interested in.
What about the
Maybe the
fish,
park,
what about the fish hatchery building there by the access?
I don't think he's
Stores
interested.
his mowers there.
I know.
That's the trade-off with him mowing our
Right.
grass, he
Right.
stores his mowers in there.
Right.
But I
And they
think he's-
have done some work in there.
Yeah, I know, but I think he's looking at it as a liability just like we do.
Okay. Then,
But I think we should ask him.
I would
really-
like to approach him on individual cases, but both places, to find out what their,
Yeah, get an official.
see if he would be interested in the park and stuff before we send a letter,
Yeah.
maybe.
okay, so asking about Camp Samaritan officially then too?
Well,
Don't send the letter?
You guys told me he's not interested.
He's indicated me not to say Camp Samaritan, but he's never said anything, nor have I asked him about the park or the other building, so.
Just the fish, am I writing this right? Fish hatchery, different than Camp Samaritan.
Two totally different places, yep.
And park is separate from even those two.
Right.
And park is separate.
Three separate items.
Yep, the fish hatchery and the park happen to be on Fish Hatchery Road, but they're on opposite sides of the road and down the road from each other, so they are really two separate
Now I
different
know
things.
where
Probably,
you're at.
you read that deed and those both are on the deed.
Oh, I see, okay.
The
Okay.
fish
Check that
hatchery
out and
and the
see.
Camp Samaritan's on that last quit
Deed.
claim deed that we got from DNR.
Oh, they're both,
But not,
The park.
the park was separate, that was a separate issue that was
okay,
given without strings to the county.
Correct.
okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. Thank